Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Uncle Mad here. Sunday morning pregame Titans talk, NFL bets, everything's gonna go. Ollie's doing his usual coughs that he does, right? Anytime I start recording a video, as is tradition. Man, these Titans are not fun to watch. They're not fun to talk about, but we're here. We're going to do it no matter what. We're going to persevere on through. But the one thing that's probably a good thing to stick around for is the best bets. I have been on fire with my picks lately. Once again, though, I am an idiot. I list them all as, one big parlay as opposed to trying to set them up. Let me pull that up before we get into the Titan stuff. Let's see what we went last week and look back at that if we can. Probably should have had this queued up beforehand, but I want to say we were like 9-3, 10-2, somewhere in that range. We're 10-2 2 weeks ago, 8-4 last week. What do we do? Tornado's in the chat. Tornado says hi. What's up, Tornado? Glad to have you in. All right, let's see what we got. Let me find that pick. 1 week ago. Stupid. I thought I had this saved somewhere, but this is done. All right, here it is. 15-leg NFL parlay from last week. Lions minus 11.5. Correct. Ravens minus 8.5. That was shock. I'd make that bet 10 out of 10 times again. The Browns winning that game was the shock of the week. Cardinals plus 4.5. That was right. Patriots plus 7. That was right. Falcons minus 2.5. That was right. Packers minus 4. This is like the second or third time we've taken the Packers and they won, but not covered by like 1 point because they won by 3, 30-27 over the Jaguars. Colts plus 5, Bengals minus 2.5. Another one. I think we're done with the Bengals this season. Chargers minus 7, Bills minus 3, Commanders plus 2.5, Broncos minus 11, Chiefs minus 9. They won, didn't cover. Probably that was too big of a spread, I would say, probably looking back. 49ers minus 5, 4.5. Won that one pretty easily. Steelers minus 6. So let's see here. 15. We won 2, 3, 4, 11-4 on last week's pick. So stay tuned for that. That was another good week. I might have to just log these all individually because if I'd logged these all individually, I'd have won a lot of money. But instead, I did one stupid big parlay for $1 with like a freaking idiot. But we're going to go to that later. We're going to start where we always do. Titans, the Tennessee Titans take on the New England Patriots today at Nissan Stadium. I will be there live for the game. Not looking forward to it because, I mean, it's one thing, when it's a good opponent, a tough opponent. I mean, not that you ever really want to see a tough opponent, but I mean, like, the Patriots might be the one team in the NFL that's knocking on the door of being just as bad, if not worse, than the Titans. I've seen a lot of people I was listening to one of my favorite Titans podcasts, Football and Other F Words, and they were pretty gung-ho, we're going to win this game. And I'm just scratching my head going, didn't the Patriots just beat the Jets, who beat the Titans? Like, I'm confused as to how anybody sees this Titans team convincingly, or like how you could be so sure this Titans could win any game. I think they can win today, but I think they're more likely to shoot themselves in the foot a million different times with like special teams errors and turnovers and stuff like that, and lose to a team that's just as bad, if not worse than them. So it's been a weird week for the Titans. There's not a whole lot to say about like the on-field product because it hasn't really changed. There's nothing new to really comment on there, but the stuff that's really getting to me now, like I'm going back and forth. Like I'm all over the place this season. Like, are the coaches out of their depth? Did we make a mistake on the coaching switch and who we hired? And like, then I come back and like, there's people like I mentioned, Football and Other F Words, love the show, love the guys on there. Stoney Keeley, he's been saying for weeks, like if you watch the film, if you study the tape, the offense isn't as bad as it looks. The scheme is right. The plays are drawn up well. It's just the execution on the field isn't there. And that's fine. That's going to be an issue at some point in time. But at some point in time, you also have to point the finger the other way. What's the old saying? You point one finger in one direction, you got, 3 pointing back at you or whatever it is. Protecting the coaches, protecting Rand Carthon, saying like, hey, the players just aren't getting the job done. They're not executing. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, blah, 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 blah. Who picked the players? I mean, this is supposed to be this big collaborative effort between the coaching staff and Rand Carthon to build this roster. And kind of seems like they built a bad roster of players who don't know how to execute plays. It's what I'm hearing. You keep saying these players aren't executing correctly. They're the ones, failing us. And I'm like, who picked the players? Who brought them in? That was a big point of contention this week. Colt Anderson, this idiot, terrible special teams coordinator we have, got his words all flustered, couldn't figure out how to explain how crappy his special teams had been earlier this week, said in one answer, he said, yeah, just the effort's been an issue for us. And then the next answer came back and said, oh, yeah, effort hasn't been a problem so far this season. And Paul Kaharski, as annoying as he can be, he called him out. He's like, you just said effort was a problem. Now you're saying effort's not an issue. Which is it? How do you explain this? What are you doing? He was just so flustered. Cole Anderson couldn't figure out how to explain anything. He's an idiot. It's clear. To me, it's one thing. Okay, if you have like a few issues in special teams, like if like your punt coverage isn't good, that could be a player issue. If you're, returning, if you don't have a particularly solid return game, that can be an issue. But when like almost every single phase, almost every single area of special teams is not only bad, but catastrophically bad and costing you games, that's nothing but coaching to me. There's no way you can 100% blame that on the players. And then once again, if you want 100% blame it on the players, I go back to what we said earlier, is that this is a collaborative effort to build this roster. Who picked those players? Who thought these were the players that could execute on special teams correctly? I just think, punt coverage is terrible. Blocking for our punter is terrible. Apparently, our punter, who was like an all-pro Pro Bowler a couple of years ago, they're saying he doesn't know how to punt anymore. Oh, he's not giving us enough hang time. He's not directional punting enough. It wasn't a problem 2 years ago. Suddenly, it's a problem the way Stonehouse is punting. I'm tracking a little something there. I think Colt Anderson's an idiot. I think he's out of his depth. Said it. I'm going to say it every single week. Hiring all these inexperienced coaches to do things for the first time ever was a stupid decision. You can't have a first-time head coach, a first-time offensive coordinator, a first-time play-calling head coach, a first-time special teams coordinator, a first-time defensive coordinator, all in the same bunch and expect it to work out. You need somebody with some experience. You need somebody who knows what they're doing, who's done this before. And the Titans went across the board, first time everything, and it's flopping and failing. And special teams is just the worst of it. But everywhere else, same kind of thing. Like Stoney Q and others have said, if you watch the tape, the play calls, the designs of the plays, it looks good, but it's just not executed correctly. Well, whose job is it to get the players to execute correctly? Whose job was it to pick the players and decide, can they execute this offense or not? Coaches. I'm not going to dwell on that too long. I think Cole Anderson's a disaster. He should be fired. It's insane that, to have that catch. Like, I don't know if there's been a single area of the Titans in the history of the franchise that has been as catastrophic as the Titans special teams have been this season. Like, literally just has cost us at least 3 or 4 games this season, single-handedly. Like, it was crazy. At one point in time, the Lions had like 9 passing yards and were up like 42-14 just because they kept getting the ball like inside the 20 and just had to like hand it off to David Montgomery or throw a quick screen and score a touchdown. It was insane. And like, I don't know how you don't, like, this is the stuff like, I'm also a Manchester United fan. They just sacked their manager, Eric Ten Hag, and they're moving on to a new guy. They're bringing in from Porto in Portugal. Not Porto, Sporting, sorry. Somebody would get really mad at me right there if they were like deep into the weeds of European soccer, if I just confused Sporting and Porto. But that's neither here nor there. That's not what we're here to talk about. But one of the things, I liked Eric Ten Hag. I thought, his track record, his background, I thought there was something there that could have eventually done better, could have eventually turned things around, could have eventually got United going in the right direction, but he just seemed to continually bury his head in the sand to any issues that arose and just thought, well, we're above this. It'll fix itself eventually. Or, the tactics aren't wrong. It's just not working out for us. It's like, we just keep trying it. Eventually it'll work out. And that kind of starting to feel like where the Titans are going, where the Titans are saying play calls aren't bad, coaching's not bad, the design plays not bad. It's just we're not executing it. Eventually, they'll just magic will happen, and suddenly we'll be executing things correctly. I don't think that's how it's going to work. I think if it sucks, it's going to continue to suck, and you got to change something. You got to do something to make it not suck, and you can't just keep burying your head in the sand and saying like, da, 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 da. Well, let's just coach better, play better. The old variable thing. We're not to that point yet, but I will say, Brian Callahan, I love that he does the post-game podcast with Mike Keith and Amy Wells. It's great to hear him. He's open. He's communicative. He tries his best to talk things through, to not just be like a closed door like Mike Vrabel was, where like he hate hated talking to anybody, hating trying to explain himself. But every once in a while, I feel like, Callahan talks himself into a situation where he's talking too much and he says the quiet part out loud. And I'm just like, oh, didn't want to hear that. On the podcast this week, they were kind of asking him about the special team stuff. And he kind of said the same thing he did. He said, we trust Colt Anderson. We think he knows what he's doing. We're going to get it figured out. We got to get better execution from the players. And Mike Keith kind of asked him to elaborate, like, is it a directional punting thing? Is it the hang time? What's an issue that we can correct and move forward? And I'm paraphrasing here, but Callahan essentially said, I don't know the ins and outs of special teams, but we've got the right coaches that can get it figured out for us or something like that. And it's like, you are the head football coach. I know you came from Cincinnati where you were an offensive coordinator who didn't call plays, which I never know what the offensive coordinators who don't call plays do. Like we have one right now, and like Nick, whatever his name is, like, what do you actually do if you're an offensive coordinator and you're not calling plays? So I know that was like your background was being an offensive coordinator who didn't even call plays. So you had even less responsibilities than some offensive coordinators, but you're a head coach now. I don't know what that phase of the team is working on or what they're supposed to do is. That doesn't work as a head coach, and you sound like an idiot when you say that. Maybe he, rightly so, is learning. It's his first head coaching job. He's picking up things. He said before, I like this one thing. He said a couple weeks ago that he keeps a notebook, and he's constantly writing down new information, stuff he's learning, things he wished he'd done better. He's constantly like taking notes, constantly grading himself, constantly assessing himself. That's great. But like I said, sometimes he talks and he says the quiet part out loud, and it's like, yes, maybe you are still kind of adapting and learning how to be a head coach and like what your role in like guiding and helping special teams is going to be long term. But don't say out loud, I don't know how that whole thing works. That's where we let the coaches there kind of handle their own thing. You sound like an idiot when you say that. All that being said, there's no evidence that would tell you the Titans are going to be any better today. Will Levis practiced all week. It hasn't been announced one way or the other if he's going to be back and playing, although it kind of indications lean that it's probably going to be him. But there was like this weird stuff where like, Callahan said, Levis will have some input into the decision, but ultimately it's going to be my decision, which kind of felt like they're almost like throwing Levis under the bus like 2 weeks ago when he came back and against the Colts. That maybe he had pushed to play when he shouldn't have pushed to play. Like they're almost throwing him under the bus, being like, hey, we listened to Levis a couple weeks ago. It turns out he was wrong. He was hurt more than he let on. So we'll let him have some influence, but ultimately we're going to make the decision. Kind of feel like it's probably still going to be Mason Rudolph. It just feels like after the disaster that the Colts game was, they're not going to rush Levis, and they probably don't feel very motivated to rush Levis back based on how terrible he's been. But, Rudolph's been just as bad, if not worse. So it's kind of like lesser of two evils. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? But yeah, there's no evidence. There's nothing that would make you say, this game is going to be any better than any game we've played so far. The one, hope is that the Patriots are just as bad, if not worse than us. But like I said, they just beat the Jets, who we've already lost to. So it's like, how do you like the Titans to beat a team that we can't beat? And they're getting their rookie quarterback back. He cleared concussion protocol. He's going to play. Drake May. He certainly looked better than, in limited sample size than any of our quarterbacks have looked this season. So I have no choice but to continue what I've said for the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to bet against the Titans every single week until they show something that they are not a terrible, horrible, awful, no good, very bad team. We'll get into the picks in a second, but let's just look at the spread. Last I checked, it was Titans. This is from DraftKings. Titans 3-point favorite. Why? I mean, worst case scenario, this game should be a pick 'em because these teams are just both terrible, but the Patriots have looked better recently than the Titans. I mean, we've got one win. I think the Patriots have. Are they one win too? Let's see. Can I look at their record? What are they on? Are they one win or two wins? Yeah, Patriots are 2-6. We're 1-6. So how does a team that won one game against the crippled dead corpse of the Miami Dolphins when they didn't have Tua, that's our only win? Why and how could we be favored over anybody, especially a team that's actually won 2 games, beat a team that beat us? Makes no sense. All right, before we get into the picks, let's go to the power rankings, everybody's favorite part of this whole video every week. Chiefs remain on top at number 1, Lions number 2. I have a feeling that's going to stay unless something shocking happens because they have, the Chiefs haven't looked convincing, but they're winning games. They're a defensive juggernaut now. Lions might jump them at some point in time, but they feel like they're probably a step ahead of everybody else in the league right now. I've got the Ravens at 3. I feel like they should probably be lower, but I mean, the Browns game was such a weird game. I'm not ready to like knock the Ravens for that yet, just because it was Jameson Winston coming in. They had the game won, should have had an interception late to seal it, and then just kind of some weird stuff happened. So I've still got the Ravens at 3. Bills at 4. I considered putting the Bills ahead of the Ravens, but because the Ravens did beat the Bills, I can't quite get there yet. Packers at 5, Vikings at 6, 49ers at 7, Commanders 8, Steelers 9, Texans 10, Falcons 11, Texans getting into a bit of trouble. They're injured galore, but CJ Stroud is looking like he's having a sophomore slump. Falcons 11, Seahawks 12, Cardinals 13, Eagles 14. They're probably going to keep going up. They crushed the Bengals last week. 15 Bears. Seems like they've kind of righted the ship a little bit, the Eagles. 16 Chargers, 17 Broncos, 18 Bucks, 19 Colts, 20 Bengals, 21 Cowboys, 22 Rams, 23 Jaguars, 24 Browns. What a jump. 25 Giants, 26 Dolphins, 27 Patriots, 28 Raiders, 29 Jets, 30 Saints, 31 Panthers, and 32nd again, Tennessee Titans. Yeah, I've got the Patriots, the 27th worst team in the NFL, the Titans the worst. So yeah, you would think the Patriots should win. Barf. All right, let's go through the games, all the picks. Week 9 spread pick for each and every game. Ravens Broncos. Oh, this is actually dropped. It was like 9.5 this morning. It's dropped now to Ravens minus 8.5. I already have Ravens minus 9 locked in here. I don't know why I picked that. I don't know when I got that locked in. I was looking through the bets that I've already made this week, and that's one of them. Kind of feel weird about that now, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think like Ravens could be a big bounce back spot for them. Home game. Broncos, have been better than expected, but still a little wonky. To be a game where the Ravens need to bounce back after that Browns game and they kind of get the ship right type thing and kind of crush. Like I said, I've already got Ravens minus 9, so I'll take my minus 8.5 easily. Commanders Giants. Commanders minus 4. The Giants have been weird, like where they're terrible, but like they're just doing enough to not get humiliated in games. Under is probably the best play in this game because I can see this being like 21-10, something crazy like that. The spread's like 44.5. The Giants have it the second time this year where they've had like a weird kicker situation when they're playing the Commanders. Like their kicker got hurt like 2 days ago and is suddenly out. Weird deal for them there. Commanders just look good, but I can see the Giants keeping it close, but I don't know. I can't take the Giants in any situation. So we'll go Commanders minus 4. Dolphins, Bills. This is probably my best bet of the day. Bills minus 6.5. Bills under a touchdown. I think they're like undefeated at home against the Dolphins with Josh Allen, maybe, or in the Tua era or something like that. And like the score lines are like ridiculously lopsided. I'm going to go and say it. This is my best bet of the day. I thought it would be at least a touchdown. It's under a touchdown. Bills minus 6.5. Think back to the game where Tua got knocked out in Miami. They were already getting crushed by the Bills. The Bills were steamrolling, and the Dolphins are terrible. Are they going to be better today with Tua coming back? Because they were terrible before he even got knocked out of that game. So, yeah, Bills minus 6.5. Lock that in. Best bet. I am officially betting that one. That's going to be one that I will bet on its own. Bengals and Raiders. Bengals minus 7.5. I've given up on the Bengals after last week getting crushed by the Eagles. The Raiders suck. They're so bad, but I can't take the Bengals on that big of a spread against anybody. So just by principle, even though I hate it, it's gross, it's disgusting. I'm going to take Raiders plus 7.5. Cowboys, Falcons. This one's an interesting one because like this feels like the Falcons are 3.5-point favorites. I saw it at 3 earlier. I wish I would have got it at 3, but at 3.5, it's kind of game where the Cowboys have like been like not good this season, but the Falcons have been like unconvincingly good, if that makes sense. This feels like the type of game where the Cowboys get a stupid win. People start getting excited about the Cowboys again and like, oh, watch out for the Cowboys. Dak's got it cooking. We'll go Cowboys plus 3.5. Patriots, Titans. Like I said, we're going Patriots plus 3, and I'd sprinkle money line there because I would fully expect the Patriots to be able to win this game. Saints, Panthers. Saints minus 7. They're getting Derek Carr back this week, so they, in theory, should be better than what we've seen from the last few weeks where they've been one of the worst teams and looked like a disaster. But, I mean, the Panthers, I don't want to take the Saints by a touchdown, but the Panthers are so bad. I feel like you just have to. So Saints minus 7. Chargers -1. I'll take that all day long over the Browns. I like the Chargers a lot. I think they're going to be sneaky one of the better teams as the season goes on, and Jim Harbaugh gets them more and more bought in, more and more on the same page. And the Browns, nice little win for them last week, but I think, they are what they are. They're going to come back down to earth a little bit in this game. Jaguars, Eagles. Eagles -7.5. They killed the Bengals last week. The Jaguars are terrible, but the Eagles are one of those zigzag up and down all over the place teams. But stick with what we've seen. Seem like they're getting things going a little bit. The Jaguars are going in the wrong direction. Eagles -7.5. Bears, Cardinals. Cardinals sneakily are on top of the NFC West, which is kind of crazy. That division is going to be wild down the stretch. Who pulls away and ends up winning there? Bears kind of looked like they were good, kind of looked like they were putting some things together, but I think more and more we're seeing what a bad decision it was that they did not fire their coach in the offseason, because poor coaching decisions completely set up the Bears for the Hail Mary that they lost on the Commanders last week. Poor coaching let the players just completely, the dude who's like taunting the fans when he's supposed to be playing defense was crazy. I think the Bears might be in for a bit of a spiral. Like, they'll still be competitive. They'll still be decent because they've got a good roster. They've got good players, but I think the coaching is coming more light how bad it is. Cardinals -1.5. Lions, Packers. Lions are -3 at Green Bay. Jordan Love got knocked out late in last week against the Packers, and Malik Willis came in and led him to win. I haven't heard anything suggesting that Love's going to be out again. Like, maybe it was just like a short-term injury type thing. This is a good game. This is a really good game. Packers at home, but Lions have just been rolling. But we gave the Lions that game last week. There was stretches where it looked like maybe, possibly the Titans could have been competitive. They didn't just completely crap the bed on special teams and turn the ball over like 15 times on offense. I like the Packers at home. I think this is one where the Lions are riding a little bit high. I still think they're really good. I still think they're probably the best team in the NFC. But, I could see this being a close 1-point win for the Lions or an outright win for the Packers at home. I'll take Packers +3. Rams and Seahawks. Rams 1.5-point favorite over Seattle. They've got healthy. They've got Puka Nacua back. They've got Cooper Kupp back. Seahawks, they're on the other side really injured. I think DK Metcalf is out, and they've kind of been spiraling a little bit after having some pop up and down stuff. Big thing for Seahawks is their defense doesn't appear to be very good. Like, they can't stop anybody, so I will take the Rams -1.5 here. Colts, Vikings. Big conversation point about, is the NFL giving up on developing quarterbacks? Does the NFL have a developing quarterbacks problem? Because the Colts announced they're benching Anthony Richardson, going with Joe Flacco. Anthony Richardson sucks. There's no data point that's do you want to be good or do you want to suck? They were kind of the same boat though as the Titans, where it's almost like, are you a Super Bowl team by changing to Joe Flacco? Probably not. And this was my point with when everybody was wanting us to change to Mason Rudolph from Will Levis. Do you win a few more games with Joe Flacco than you do with Anthony Richardson? Probably. But what is the better long-term answer for your franchise? Is it that, you play out the stretch with the guy who's struggling, the younger player, and really give him a chance to grow, but also give yourself a chance to fully get a better assessment on him? I thought we should have, and I continue to think we should probably play out the stretch with Will Levis here. They probably should there as well. But I think Anthony Richardson, that was a stupid pick to begin with. I always thought that was a terrible pick just because he had no, what did he do? Play 12 total college football games or something crazy like that. But I got Joe Flacco in. The Vikings have come back down to earth after their good start. I'm taking the Colts +5, and I'd be tempted to sprinkle a little money line there too, because I feel like them with Joe Flacco in there, Shane Steichen, pretty good offensive coordinator, get a guy like Joe Flacco who can just execute the plays properly. I like them in that spot. I'll take Colts +5. Then we jump over. That's the Sunday night football game, and then we jump over to Monday night football, last game of the week. Bucks at Chiefs. Chiefs are 9-point favorites. If you watched any of these videos, any of these previews over the last year, the Bucks have been kind of my sweetheart team that I like. I like them in tough spots. I like them when it's back against the wall type games. And the Chiefs haven't really convincingly been beating many teams this season. Last week, I thought 9 was easy against the Raiders. They won by 7. Bucks, though, all their receivers are hurt. Defense is banged up. They're just so injured. It's hard to see any way they can really, really, really keep pace with the Chiefs if the Chiefs get some points. Like this could be 24-10. A game where like the Chiefs don't really have to do anything, but they get a win and the Bucs just can't move the ball at all with all their injuries. I'd like to be wrong because I like the Bucs. I like Baker Mayfield. I'd like to, see things work out for them, but I feel like the pick has to be Chiefs -9. So, all right, looks like we've got some things. Oh, Packers have shifted to +2.5 in the time I was sitting there talking from +3 to +2.5. Ugh, wish that stayed at +3. And Cowboys have moved back to +3 as well. So let's recap these. Let's go through what we are now. Lines have moved, lines have shifted, but I'm staying with what we went with. Ravens -8.5, Commanders -4, Bills -6.5, Raiders +7.5, Cowboys +3, Patriots +3, Saints -7, Chargers -1, Eagles -7.5, Cardinals -1.5, Packers +2.5, Rams -1.5, Colts +5, Chiefs -9. We're going to put in a $1 14 pick parlay that if all 14 legs hit, we will make $9,314.55. Boom. Locking it in. And I'm also locking in the Bills -6.5 as my best bet. So the only two, let me see. Let me look at what I've got going right now. I'll tell you exactly what I've got locked in. So I'll probably add a few more things before we hit kickoff today, but I'll tell you what I've got locked in officially. Why can't I find this game all of a sudden? Bills -6.5. Yep, we're going to put that in, and we're good there. All right, so official bets that I have rolling right now. Do. All right, so official bets for today. I don't know when I placed this one, but this is a Vince Russo play. Vince Russo's been on this show. I watched Driving the Line. He pops on every once in a while, and I always fade him because Vince Russo is an idiot. He's been nothing but an idiot throughout his whole career. So, and now I feel stupid because I earlier was talking about how I've locked in Cowboys +3.5, but I've already got Falcons money line as one of the bets I've already locked up for this week. So I got Falcons money line, Patriots +3.5, Ravens -9, under 44.5 in the Giants and Commanders. I mentioned that one a little bit earlier. Two-leg teaser, Bills, Pick'em, Eagles -1.5. And then I've got Bills -6.5. So I've got them covered in two different ways on those bets. And Bills best bet. That's what I've got locked in as my best bet for the week so far. So that one's going to wrap it up. I'm going to get ready to head over to Nissan Stadium for today's exciting clash of the juggernauts, two of the dumpster fire crap hole teams of all time in the NFL right now. The Patriots come to Nissan Stadium to take on the Tennessee Titans. I'll be there. We'll be doing a vlog for that. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell on for notifications. You should see a game vlog from that tomorrow. If you're watching this on Sunday, November the 3rd, that should come out Sunday or Monday, November the 4th. All kinds of other stuff. Me and Just have our big annual Caribbean vacation coming up, so we'll have a ton of content from that. It should be fun, should be awesome, and all kinds of other stuff is always coming up on the channel. Appreciate everybody watching. Follow or fade these picks. Like I said, I've been on fire lately. 10-2, 8-4, and then 11-3 last week. So I mean, it's got to turn at some point in time. This is the week I just looking at those was not very confident in anything outside of that Bills pick. So this might be the week to fade me and just completely turn the corner because can't possibly have 4 straight just like killer weeks like I've already had. It has to go wrong somewhere. This is probably it. Do what you think is right. Follow your gut. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your bagels.